So one of the ways that people actually start to discover EMF for themselves really is the tingling fingers with the cell phone. A huge portion of our population suffers something called EHS, electro-hypersensitivity syndrome. They're hypersensitive to electricity. My son has that.
Oh, buddy.
His skin is super sensitive and it wouldn't allow him to find ease, to find peace. It was driving him mad, you guys, killing my little kid. So what you've done is you put your head, your most complex biological piece of machinery that works on magnetism, right by the wall, right at the same height almost as the wiring, inside that electromagnetic field that's now going to hit you constantly in the same spot until it's sore. That's going to create cellular damage. And they're not bringing 5G because they love you so much that they want you to be able to download Shrek faster. 5G is absolutely for surveillance, and it is a bioweapon.
Welcome to Under the Sun podcast. I'm Ilea.
And I'm Irene. Grab a cup of coffee and your comfiest sweats and join us every Monday as two best friends discuss everything from raising free-range gremlins to business and really everything under the sun.
Let's get started, and thanks for being here.
Hey everyone, this is part one of our awesome interview with BD, the owner of Satic Shield. You are going to love this conversation. It was so helpful.
It was like, I always say this, but it's like one of my favorite conversations because we nerded out about a whole bunch of stuff that like is happening in the world. He has a company that he founded for EMF protection. And I know you're like, oh, I've heard of EMFs. Well, this sounds weird. Yeah. It's not. It's real. And once you hear his explanation, he's so intelligent.
And it's not overwhelming.
No, he told it like, you know, like on The Office when he's like, when they're like, when Michael's like, tell me like I'm a 5-year-old. Like he did that for us. Thank you, because I don't understand electricity. But now I feel more knowledgeable. Yeah. And so, you're going to love this. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. I'm very excited to talk to BD Erickson. BD, would you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm a power systems engineer for a tech manufacturing firm located in Missoula, Montana called Satic. And we're driven by a passionate belief that dirty electricity is real, measurable, and a real health concern facing mankind. So our problem or our solution to that end is design the best line of clean power products available anywhere on the market today at any price.
Okay, so let's like back up a little bit. What is dirty energy? Because like I saw a reel. That's why we saw you guys and we're like, oh, we should have them on the podcast to talk about EMFs. What is dirty energy? What is EMF? Like people think it's a little woo-woo, like, oh, you're so sensitive. Like why, like me, I won't hold my phone if it's charging because like it literally makes my body tingle. And they're like, oh, you're so sensitive. And I'm like, no, there's something wrong here. And I've been saying it for years, but you guys have kind of figured all this out. Tell us what dirty energy is and what the heck EMFs are and if they're real.
You know, we don't have to bite that off all in one chunk. I always tell people, you know, the way you'd eat an elephant would be one bite at a time, right? So one of the ways that people actually start to discover EMF for themselves really is the tingling fingers with the cell phone, where you sit and, you know, you're scrolling, or you're gaming, or you're doing whatever, and your fingers start to tingle. And so, you know, in that moment, you're like, is this caused by my phone? It probably is. It seems to follow that. And so that's where maybe the discovery a little bit comes from. And you know, I do get called the woo-woo guy a lot, and because I'm not woo-woo, I'm a technical person. I never got to be in university, a somewhat serious person. I've got the best team of engineers on the planet, and when you get called woo-woo, it's a little insulting. I will say I'm sensitive. There are people that say, I don't care.
We're not saying that. People have said that, just so we're clear. Yeah.
Other people. That's right. And I would love to be one of those people that says, I don't care what people think. I totally care what people think. Yeah, I do. I don't want to, but I do. I'm vulnerable. I want to be loved. I want to be likable. And I want to be believable, especially, you know, with something that I'm so passionate about. And so I think I'd love to just give you a really quick origin story. My origin story on me, right? So, and not that anybody wants to hear somebody talk about themselves, yawn, but there's a reason that a very non-woo-woo person ended up in, you know, something that's a little woo-woo pseudoscience, right? Mm-hmm. So my son and I moved from Hawaii to Missoula, Montana, where we're actually from, okay? And he and I are sitting on the deck one day, and we look up, and he and I, almost in harmony, notice the biggest power lines in the whole town, in the whole Missoula Valley, going right over our roof. And he and I were just like, oh my goodness, strucken by it, because he and I are so visual. We're male. We're both so visual that we'd gone all the way through the process of finding, buying, financing a home and moving into it, and hadn't noticed these lines. And so he and I just had to laugh at each other at how we'd missed that. We also took note that, hey, we're not going to have to mow, because it's a big property. We're not going to have to mow that area because underneath the power lines, there is no grass. I mean, it's not bushy less. It's gone. It's dirt, right? And then starts to grow on the edges. So about a year passes, and he's not himself. He's got ringing in the ears. He's anxious. His skin is overly sensitive, etc. And this was important to note because this is a guy that hadn't missed a day of school in 2 years. He had never gotten a B. And not because I'm this phenomenal dad. I was a loving dad, but not a phenomenal one. That was just him. That was just how he operated, you guys. That was just his natural being. So the teachers call me in. They want to make sure everything's at home. They're like, this guy was student of the month. He's holding the door for the special needs kids. He's well loved by all the groups. And lately, he's not bringing his homework in, or it's not done, or he's struggling. Is everything okay, etc. Now, his mom had been killed in a car accident, and that was very hard on he and I. And it had been about a year and a half since that had happened. So we all accounted for that. But I said, no, it's something else. I think it's something environmental, because this just isn't him. Even though we suffered a great loss, he was still himself. Yes, we were grief-stricken, to be sure, but he was still his own personality. And that personality was slipping. So well-intending, what do they want to do? Big pharma, right? Let's put your kid on drugs. And I'm like, the last thing on earth that we're going to do is put my little boy on big pharma. We don't even follow vaccine schedules. We're our own people. We live in Western Montana. We're doing us. You know what I mean? We're doing us. So we don't need that. So just being a dad we've suffered a lot of loss, and now my little guy is hurting, you go into panic mode a little bit, and you just start to deduce, what is it? It didn't take long before just Googling living under power lines. A huge portion of our population suffers something called EHS, electro-hypersensitivity syndrome. They're hypersensitive to electricity. My son has that. Okay, so now when you're standing in that yard and you're directly under those lines, you can totally hear them. You can hear them buzzing, right? No doubt. And you can even feel it just a little bit, just raises the hair a little bit. I wouldn't call it uncomfortable though, for me, but I can notice it. For him, being hypersensitive, the ringing in his ears was constant and inescapable. Driving him nuts. His skin is super sensitive, and it wouldn't allow him to find ease, to find peace. It was driving him mad, you guys, killing my little kid. So my brother and I found this really cool NASA blanket, this really cool aluminum shield for shielding, literally for EMF shielding. They say they used it in space. I'm not sure about that anymore either, but let's not go down that road. So we get
another podcast. We'll have you back on.
We have to be quiet if we want this to air.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure.
So we get in the attic and we lay it out, eave to eave, gable to gable, and grounded it, did all the things, and immediately he found a new level of peace. Now, not what I would call perfection, but a huge weight or large relief for him. So we knew that we were onto something, and I knew there's no way other families looking both ways on this power line aren't suffering, and maybe they don't know what it is. And it's adults have it too. And so they say, 8 to 12% of the population suffer this. Is that true? I don't know. I mean, you can Google search it like anybody. That's kind of the number that's out there. That's a huge portion of the population. That's not a subculture. I mean, 12%, 1 in 7, 1 in 8 people, that's a serious number, right?
Yeah.
And when I began to look online for things that would help him, it was too woo-woo for me. Crystals on a plate, rocks, stuff like this. Not saying they don't work. Not saying the sticker on the phone doesn't work. I got a sticker on the phone. I hope it works. Yeah. I can't prove that it works. My meters can't read it, but I got it, right? And I didn't want something that you kind of had to just believe. I wanted something that you could test and measure. And so I had good money from my old career path. I'm a power systems engineer. I grew up in tech manufacturing. Growing up in Western Montana, my family was the largest American solar panel manufacturer west of the Mississippi.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Now, is that figure true? I don't know. I was 8. My dad said it, so it must be true.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, growing up, we really did manufacture solar panels. The homes that I grew up in as a little boy not only had solar panels on them, and this is 80s. This is way before solar was even popular. Not only did we have panels, we had the panels that my family made. So being in the tech manufacturing background in power systems is very natural to me. And one of the things that we noticed, I'll almost wrap up with my story, one of the things that we noticed is that when you go solar, and I'm the largest solar dealer in Western Montana, it says it on my shirt, 2 things are for sure. You're gonna get a smart meter. And boy, howdy, if smart meters aren't, unfortunately, probably the #1 culprit for EMF overexposure. They cause a lot of EMF, okay? And #2, you're getting these inverters. And inverters simply what takes the direct current from the panel and turns it into the alternating current that you use to power your home. Mm-hmm. That's probably culprit #2 or #3. And what I realized is, everyone's going solar. If you put solar on a house with someone like my son in it, you'd kill him. You'd cause him so much dis-ease, if you will, that it would change his quality of life. And there are a ton of families that say once they got their power wall, once they got their battery, once they got their solar, they're not sleeping, or they're all waking up at a specific time, 4:00 in the morning, they're all waking up, or whatever. And so wanting a healthy son, knowing that surely he was not the only person suffering, and realizing that with the rollout of solar, 4G, 5G, smart meters, you pick it, that there was a real niche. And I never started our company to make money. I swear that from the heart, if you can read my soul. Mm-hmm. I started it because, first of all, I had to save my little kid. And that when you have a sick kid, that becomes the driving force in your life, obviously. And I just knew there were others like him. And so that became a passion. Now I'm one of the leading experts in the world on dirty electricity, EMFs, and how you mitigate them.
Yeah.
Wow. We appreciate you sharing your story, because that having a why in this culture right now where everybody's kind of hopefully shifting and voting with their dollar, you want to help, not help, but you want to buy from people who are good people, and you want to help each other out and not give it to the big corporations. So we appreciate you sharing your story. And also, what great discernment you had as a dad to not just be like, guess he's going to be on Ritalin the rest of his life. That stinks. Yeah. Guess it's just what happens, because that unfortunately is the tail that happens the most, or, whatever the prescription is on pharma. Like that is, I know so many people who are like, I'm now 30 getting off of it, and turns out I never needed it in the first place. Right. And it's like, what great discernment you had for your son. Okay, so I always said, well-intending, just misinformed. Nobody was evil. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what we're taught, give people a pill. Yeah. And so no one was evil in my experience. They were simply well-intending, but misinformed. Yeah. 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 I mean, if you're brought up in a system that like, this is the only remedy, like nothing natural ever works, that's right. Okay. So so the meters outside of your house are the #1 culprit. And then what was the second culprit?
Oftentimes, so the kind of list of culprits is the term that we use. I love that you caught on to that. Things that cause higher levels of dirty electricity and EMF. And the electromagnetic field is the result of the electrified world. And it's in itself is not sinister too, right? Just, having electricity in your house is probably not very good for you biologically, but I don't know that was necessarily sinister. There was Nikola Tesla, he's one of my favorite guys. We all love an electrified world. But there are things in the electrified world that create way too much, and we don't have good standards for it. If I need to answer some of your questions, you're like, really, what is an EMF? What causes them? An EMF is an electromagnetic field. They often say electromagnetic frequencies. That's not necessarily the right term. It's a field, but those fields do have a frequency. So it's not incorrect either. Fields have 2 major components to them. One is their power or their intensity, and the other is their frequency. And while that sounds fancy, I'm going to be able to explain it to you perfectly, and everybody that's listening is going to get it. When I'm sitting on the beach here at the lake, we love to go to the lake. The waves come in and they crash. And my best sleep in the whole world, I sleep in the boathouse. I don't like to be in the big house. I like to be in the boathouse because I hear the waves hitting the rocks. And it is bliss to me, right? So these waves are about a foot tall. They crash onto the rocks. So the height of the wave, how much water's in the wave, that's really the energy or the power, right? Okay. And then how many times they're crashing on the beach in 1 minute is how frequently they crash. That's frequency. Okay. So now we lived in Hawaii for many years. We lived on Oahu, and on the Big Island up in Haleiwa, those waves are monsters. Like they pull clear out. It seems like a block. They build this 20-foot huge wave that has so much power, it will pound you into the sand and it crashes. So it has more energy, it has more power, but it hits less frequently. So that's a wave. And that wave in water is just like a wave of electricity, magnetism, anything else. It's got two things: how hard it's going to hit you, and then how many times it's going to hit you. Okay? So is being hit good for your biology? Well, if you're being hit hard, no. You don't have to be a super genius. If you're being hit a lot, no. Now, an AM radio. When I was a kid, every car had an antenna for AM and FM. Cars haven't had antennas in 20 years. They got a shark fin, right? An AM radio wave, from the top of it, for the peak, they call it, to the trough, the bottom is a block long. So that only hits you so many times in a minute. FM radio is about 6 feet. So that hits you quite a bit more. That's why when you get out of town, you have AM radio still, but not FM. Okay. The waves we're talking about are about 1 millimeter long. So they're hitting you constantly. That is high frequency. Okay. Now let's pretend that, I'm punching you in the arm. If I punch you in the arm from the same spot, after a while, even if it's not hard, it's going to start to get sore. You're going to get tired of it. But what if I'm moving it around? That's a massage. That's $100 an hour. That's nice, right? Yeah. Okay. So when I am moving around, that wave is hitting me constantly, but in different spots. Not enough to really start to build up some kind of damage. But if I sit in my chair or hold my phone in my hand or lay in my bed, now I'm going to constantly hit in the same place. Now let's add the power of the wave, the size, the energy of that wave will usually dissipate over distance. Well, here's something that humans do in common. We put our bed against the wall. We put our head against the wall. I don't care where you live on earth. Nobody puts their feet by the wall and their head in the middle of the room. Yeah. It's stupid. It's the head of the bed and the foot of the bed, right? So what you've done is you put your head, your most complex biological piece of machinery that works on magnetism, right by the wall, right at the same height almost as the wiring, inside that electromagnetic field that's now going to hit you constantly in the same spot until it's sore. That's going to create cellular damage. That is proven beyond any contestation. Let's face it, the grass under power lines isn't bushy-er. It's bushy less. Yeah. Right? But because of the FDA, we've got to be very careful about what we say is harmful and damaging to human beings, right? Okay. Here's my workaround. You ready? Here's my hack. It's well documented how it affects dairy cows. Tons has been written, dairy gold, marigold, the difference between the Hutterites who use electricity and the Amish who don't. The quality, taste, production of milk is drastically reduced and negatively affected by dirty electricity. That's how an electric fence works. So an electric fence is just that one wire. And everyone that's been around us, how does that work? Why doesn't he just go under it? So I always thought as a little boy that he would bump it, it would bite him, he wouldn't like it, he'd learn.
Yeah, that's what I
No dairy cow has ever been hit by an electric fence, ever. They won't go near it. They won't step in a puddle within 6 feet of an electric fence. They're so sensitive to it. They don't go near it. Dairy greenhouses and grows. We've got tons of pictures of the strawberries, let's say, moving towards the light or towards the water or food source and away from dirty electricity, and leaves even being brown and falling off because of the electromagnetic field. So the idea that it's bad for you is beyond reasonable concept. It's beyond reasonable contestation. You cannot intelligently argue that it's bad for you. So now the question becomes, well, how bad is it? Well, it's not as bad as walking into a whirling propeller. That's really bad right this second. Yeah. It's more like smoking cigarettes and eating food with glyphosate and drinking water with fluoride and just doing all the dumb stuff that they've compelled upon us. And so the last part, I know I just keep ranting, with the smart meter, this thing is an RF frequency tower. It's constantly talking to the mothership. Nobody wants the cell phone tower on their house. No one wants the power lines going through their house. And that's what is effectively happening. So the question after that, is that an intentional and nefarious, or is it just part of their functionality? And that's, maybe if you ever have me back, we could get into that one. But
I would love to get into that, because
absolutely,
to me, and I used to never think, feel free to interrupt me, but this is something I nerd out about a lot, is that I never used to think anything nefarious was going on. But I think 2020 woke up a lot of people, and I was just like, oh no, everything's fine. No one ever tried to hurt us. Food is fine, whatever. But there are too many coincidences happening that are all impacting our health. There's another drip in the bucket, and the bucket is eventually going to overflow and cause, a drastic illness. We won't say any names, but a drastic illness that is going to either take your life or ruin it for the rest of your existence. There's just too many coincidences. And I had never made the connection with dairy cows, because that is interesting. That is very interesting. And thank you for sharing that. Okay, we got to go back though. So where is your bed? Yeah. Where's your bed? Where do we put our bed?
Free float? Yeah. Do you have to chase your pillow off the front end?
Do you have a little frame, like a little adult crib? What's happening?
I need a piece of my shield. Hold on. So I still sleep with my bed. I still sleep with my head against the wall. I do not have any of my electronics charging in my sleeping area. So in our family, we use our Wi-Fi. I got a piece of this. We use our Wi-Fi and our electronics very intentionally. So it's not like I'm giving away my iPhone. It's not like, I'm not going to be connected. We'll say, okay, let's Wi-Fi. We have a Wi-Fi that you can simply turn on and off. Mm-hmm. We turn it on, we update, we download, we game, we do whatever we want. And then we turn it off. And at night, we turn it off. And then at night in our rooms with our power strips, TV, DVR, Sensi thing, and I've got all the crap that my female pals give me and the essential oils and all the crap that I've got. We actually turn off the power strip so those things are no longer powered. Okay. And then we have a piece of equipment, a technology called Field Shield. And I've got great videos. It's 2 feet wide and 4 feet tall. Mm-hmm. Imagine a big poster. Yeah. That slides right behind your headboard. You won't even see it. That slides right behind your headboard, and that becomes the barrier between your wall and the electrical wiring and your physiology, your biology. It does need to be plugged in. It needs to be grounded. And the way Field Shield works, when I imagine a shield in my mind's eye, immediately I have a knight or a combatant. Mm-hmm. And he holds up a shield, and then an axe or a blade or an arrow is going to be stopped or bounce off that, right? The way Field Shield works, it's more like, imagine a softball net catching a softball. It grabs it, it takes it, and then it pushes it to ground. And it has to be connected. It's got to be grounded for it to work. And puts it on the ground. So another nice thing too, you're no longer the path of least resistance in that bed. So you're no longer the conductor. And you are 100% blocked from those fields. And when I say that, I don't mean 99%. I mean 100%. As I dig through my bag of toys and meters, and yes, I'm a nerd, but I own it.
I love it. I love it. Now you're gonna have to, this is a later conversation, give us an EMF reader recommendation. Yeah. And a link on Amazon so that we can
So this is our meter. This is an EMI meter, electromagnetic interference.
Okay.
Right? And you just plug this guy in. Just plug this guy in, and you'll get a reading. This meter goes to 2,999. You really want to see under 100. Yes, number 2 would be ideal because you've got a voltage wave and you have an amperage wave. You've got these 2 waves that travel hopefully in synergy. Any more than that, it's bad. Well, how much? Anything over 100, you probably need to add filters. Unfortunately, in the modern world, your home's not 100. Doggone it, your home is in the thousands. And just by the use of your devices or lighting, you probably already have a smart meter. And then we live in a world of alternating current, AC. Anything with a battery, you guys, is DC. So your phone, your tablet, your iPad, any of those things, those are DC devices. That's why you have to have that special little plug. Well, that's changing the type of electricity. And that by itself affects everything in the house. So just by the nature of our use of electricity, LED lights, LEDs, they're DC, they strobe. I don't know if you know this, LEDs flicker 60 times per second. It's just faster than the human eye. The incandescent light bulb that Edison invented 130 years ago, they've taken them off the market. Why?
Yeah.
They were all made in America. Why? Now it's all LEDs and CFLs and fluorescents made in Japan or China. Yep. Why? I mean, I try not to get on the nefarious train, but they took something that did 2 things. It created light and it actually cleaned electricity. So believe it or not, an old Edison light bulb is nearly as effective as this.
Wow.
And we had everybody, depends on which Department of Energy Google search you choose to believe. Yeah. We all have 20 or 30 of these dumb things in our house.
Yeah.
So every family went from actively filtering and cleaning power, 20 or 30 of them, to 20 or 30 dirtiers, causes of distortion, culprits. Yeah. And so it's bad on our electrical system, and it is ultimately bad on our physiology and biology. It is one of the many things, the chemtrails, aluminum falling from the skies, the glyphosate on the crops, the steroids and the hormones in the food and the animals. It's all part. It's just one more part. So I tell people all the time, you're doing your best to drink unfluoridated, unleaded water. You're doing your very best to eat food that doesn't have a peel, reel, or any of those things on it, as little glyphosate as possible. We're all doing the heavy metal detox. I just sent my hair in the other day, and now it's all parasites, right? And so we're just going down this river as a team, hitting all these rapids, finding out all these things, trying to do it all. You can't
just
do
trying
all
to feel
that
better
and not have an EMF filter.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just one more thing. And I'm not trying to sell people stuff. There's a lot of things that you can do that are free. And we have a free guide for people that just are tight on dough.
Great.
80% of what you need, you can do for free.
Okay. Well, then can you give us just like a real quick synopsis of like what people can do for free? And then also like out of your products, where should people start to help protect themselves and their home and their family? Like free. And then also like, if people want to go to your website. Got it.
So free can be really easy if you live out of town a little bit, if you have a utility that will let you opt out of certain meters, and if you can control your own electrical environment. It's a lot harder for people that live in the city. It's a lot harder for people who rent, and impossible almost for renters in apartments, because you're just getting it from all sides. And you can turn off your own Wi-Fi. You can't turn off theirs. So let's just start with someone's personal home environment. First of all, just being cognizant that dirty electricity is real, that dirty electricity creates the EMF. The EMF has radiation. So we're really talking about radiation. And this radiation is the subsequent effect of living in a modernized world and using some devices. Some devices are worse than others. So number 1, time your use when you are in physical contact, physically contacting these devices. Don't put your laptop on your lap. Knock it off. Put it on the table or put a piece of field shield down. Don't engage it when it's plugged in. Charge it in another room, and when it's charged, bring it and engage it. Well, why? Well, think about this. It's going to have a field. Field's going to have two things. Remember, it's going to be how hard it's going to punch you and how many times it's going to punch you in a minute.
Yeah.
When it's powering on battery, that field's energy is limited to battery energy. When you plug it in, you've plugged it into infinitive energy. It's got an unlimited amount of energy now to fry you with. Okay. Wi-Fi, if you need to use it, either plug in, hardwire plug in, and don't use wireless, or just use wireless for a time. You can be exposed to some of it. We're tough, but you don't want to just be bathing in it unnecessarily.
Yeah.
Turn it off at night. Don't charge anything in your room at night when you're trying to rest, because that field is so exasperated by these devices while they're charging.
Yeah.
And then when you turn things off, you have to realize they're not really off. They're not off. Point the remote control at it. It comes back to life. It's waiting for the remote control. It's not in maybe full go phase, but it's not off. And so being mindful, turning things off, not using rheostats, which are dimmers. Dimmers.
Oh, yeah.
Dimmers are the devil. And then they make such great mood lighting. Who doesn't like dinner mood lighting? I love it.
Yeah.
So get your bowl of rocks, get your sea salt rocks with some pretty lights, and get your Sensi and your stuff in it, because there's other ways to make, romantic or comfortable lighting without a dimmer. And then if you can, avoid having a smart meter on your home. And if you have solar panels, then you really need a wire-in version of one of our filters.
So I have a selfish question whenever you get a sec.
So he wires in at the electrical panel. He's made in USA.
Love that.
25-year warranty. You will have clean, filtered, regulated power throughout your whole home. It's a very robust surge protector. It's an EMP shield, and it will clean, filter, and harmonize.
I like that.
All right.
I like that. Yeah. We are birds of a feather.
Yeah.
Like, are we like best friends? Because I'm not quite sure.
I'm on here for a reason.
Yeah.
My marketing team was like, we found these people. You're going to love them. They're like you.
I love it.
Yeah, they've heard me. We've been canceled many times.
Instagram doesn't like us.
Yeah,
YouTube doesn't like us.
We're in Instagram jail right now. Who knows how long it's going to last? Every reel. I mean, we've posted. This is a tangent, but again, that's who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Go.
We used to post reels, and it would get like 10 million, 9 million, 5 million, 2 million, 1 million. Like, it was all up in the millions, 500,000, 300,000. And then we did one that they disagreed with, and we have been in jail for probably 2 months, 3 months. So it's hard. But like, that's not going to deter us from, because like, yeah, it sucks and it's a little defeating, but like, we're not going to waver. Like, great. Like, that's great that you're going to cancel us, but we have people who still listen and share it, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely. And I think for most of us now, the minute it's fact checked, that's how we know it's true.
Amen.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's like, you're just telling me this is real. What are you doing?
That's
I have
how
a
they tell
selfish
us.
question, if I can pick your brain.
Please.
My husband and I are flipping an RV. It's a big Class A 41-foot thing that the plan is to possibly live in it. It's debatable. When we started this, we didn't have kids. Now we have 2. I still think we can live in it with 2 and just have less stuff. But all that to say, the plan is to put solar so we can be off-grid if we need to be off-grid. But then we're sleeping in a 41-foot metal box with solar. So what are your thoughts on keeping us still safe in that process?
You have to be thoughtful about it, but no problem.
Okay.
So you'll need a field shield so that the power coming from the inverters and stuff isn't coming into the living area.
Okay.
And then you'll just need 1, maybe 2 plug-in units, one as close to the electrical system as possible, and then one as far away as possible. And you can mitigate it. And with the use of meters that I can't seem to find, once we get you in your RV, there's 2 meters that you need to have. You need to have one of these. Now, this is ours. 2 other companies make them, Stetzer and Greenwave, and they're good. I like mine because it's mine, but those other ones work. They're totally acceptable. And then a company called Tri-Field makes a meter, and Tri-Field, so it's the electric field, the magnetic field, and the RF field. And with that meter, it doesn't plug in. You can just wave it around and make sure that the area where you're going to be sitting for a long time, if you're on the road driving, at that place, it's got a low number, where the kids are going to be doing their activities for a long time, and the bedding area. And as long as those numbers are low, you can still have a life. I mean, you can still have solar. You can still have a phone. There's a lot of things that you can do. Some people are so sensitive that they really can't do a lot of that. I think for the most part, if you're mindful and do it in small doses, you can. It's like you wouldn't want to live on fast food. It's pure processed sugar, right?
Yeah.
It kills you. But if you had, one McDonald's fries on a road trip because you're lazy and you're driving through the middle of nowhere and they are tasty, I think you'll live.
Yeah.
Would you want to smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day? No. If you smoked 1 cigarette in college, I think you're okay.
Yeah.
You got to be, don't go too over the top, be mindful of it.
Right.
But once you know it is akin to fast food, once you know it is akin to smoking and stuff, avoid it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do your best to be a mindful person.
Right.
I just want to make note that I cleared out our local Ace Hardware. I don't know if you have Ace Hardware out there, but of all of the incandescent bulbs that they had, I spent like $420 on light bulbs. And for the most part, all of our house has incandescents right now. But obviously that's going to run out at some point. We're going to have to do LEDs. But like that is just doing the best with what you got.
I love that. I love that mindful stuff. So that's one of the things that we talked about, mindful things that you can do. Those are so inexpensive to manufacture. It's simply a piece of tungsten. So it's called an anode and a cathode. And that just means power in, power out with a little piece of tungsten glass. They can literally last 100 years and they clean your electricity. And the fact that they took those away to give us something that damages our health, I'm sorry, go conspiracy theory. It's nefarious.
Yeah.
It's a nefarious way to constantly make our living areas sickly.
Yeah.
Have you seen, this is a tangent, but kind of along the same lines. Have you seen that, I think it was a TED Talk of a guy saying that LEDs can eventually, like somehow it can, again, I'm not an energy person. I don't understand the proper verbiage, but with LEDs and the Wi-Fi, like they'll be able to tell like who's in a house. Oh yeah. Like off of like thermal imaging. Could you, okay, I just like butchered that explanation. Is that real? Can you help me understand that?
It is real, and they can communicate, and they can communicate a couple ways. So if you're going to communicate, you need a transmitter, which sends a signal, and you need a receiver, which receives the signal.
Okay.
And with a receiver in there, they can be communicated with, and then there's ways they can communicate back. Since an LED is always flickering, light emitting diode, LED, light emitting diode. What's a diode? It's a one-way door. So I'm going to teach you guys really fast. You guys are going to be engineers before you know it, okay? So an alternating current, hold on, I think she brought my stuff. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the podcast.
I need a tri-filter.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
And I thought I had one right here. Maybe check my conference room.
Sounds good.
I have no idea where it went. Okay, alternating current. I don't know how it works in real life. I can explain it. I got an A, but it's still mind-numbing. It moves. It alternates. So it goes in and out, in and out, in and out. How you cover distance going in and out fries my brain, but that's how it works. DC, it just goes. So it's almost like imagine 5 of me in a row and I've got a basketball and I just turn and hand it to this guy. This guy takes it from me and hands it to this guy. That's more like AC. DC, the guy's got the ball and he just walks with it. Okay?
Okay.
So with alternating current, something's moving back and forth. What a diode does is when the guy goes in, it shuts the door, he can't get out. And then it opens, the next guy comes in, he shuts the door, it can't get out. So it's shutting the door, it's strobing.
Okay.
Well, our electricity is at 60 hertz. So it has to strobe at 60 hertz. So all those lights are strobing at 60 hertz. That's just the diode stays lit so that we can't perceive it, but cameras can. Well, it can talk Morse code. It can communicate. With a receiver in there, they can literally talk to each other and they can read what's absorbing the light or reflecting the light. So of course it's going to know how many bodies are in the room. And a lot of them nowadays, unfortunately, a lot of the smoke detectors in apartment complexes have microphones and cameras in them.
Wow.
So it just looks like a smoke detector and is a smoke detector, but it also has a camera and a microphone. I mean, I don't want to get us canceled. George Orwell's 1984, Big Brother. It's coming. In fact, it's here. There are so many, closed network cameras and, so many listening and watching devices that's part of it. And LEDs do part of that. So we sell an LED that we manufacture. We call it quantum photon, and it doesn't have that. It also has a dirty electricity filter in it. They're kind of expensive. They're like $5 each rather than $3. But they last a long time. They don't flicker, strobe, or pulse. They're still an LED, but they can't communicate. There's no receiver or transmitter in them, and there's actually a privacy blocking filter in each light bulb.
Amazing.
Okay.
What a wonderful alternative. Oh,
Yeah.
man. I'm so glad we had you on.
Me too.
This is awesome.
Me too.
I think so many people are opting out. I feel like I'm talking so much. Tell me to
No,
shut
talk.
up.
I love
No,
it.
no,
But
go.
like,
Because you're more knowledgeable in this than I
I'm
am.
nerd. Like, this is what, like, my husband will, like, come in and be like, what's going on? Like, you look like you're deep diving. I'm like, have you heard of H.A. Harper? Like, it's fine. I'm fine. But, like, you know, once you start pulling those layers back, you're like, oh, my gosh. The same thing, like, with our kids, like, with my kid and with her kids, like, thank God, like, our eyes were open before, like, a little bit before they were born, because it's like, okay, now we're going to hopefully stand in the gap for you. So,
Yeah, it's not as much backpedaling as it is, okay, how do we move forward as the world keeps changing?
yeah, and
Thankfully.
protect your, you know,
Yeah.
what we can. But all that being said, like, we bought a homestead. We, like, sold our 4,000 square foot house in the middle of town and bought a homestead on 3 or 4 acres, and we now have 89 birds outside
Yep.
where we get eggs from, and half of them are meat birds that we're going to harvest here in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
And I have a huge garden. Now, we do have a huge cell tower, so I want to talk to you about that. But but there are a bunch of trees. That's why I justified moving here, because, like, there are a whole bunch of trees blocking it at least. And, like, they talk about the dome that comes off of it. Like, I think is that right? There's the energy that happens from a tower. There's like I think it would hit past us. Like, isn't there like a radius? Am I?
Yeah, so it's
that
a
make sense?
toroid. So it's
Okay,
a donut.
God bless you. What is that?
A donut.
Okay.
and trees help. I don't know about the dome thing. Where are my meters? But trees help.
Okay.
Nature helps. That's one of the things, like in towns in England, they're taking all the trees off the streets.
Yeah.
Because the trees interrupt the 5G communications. And they're
Yeah.
not bringing 5G because they love you so much that they want you to be able to download Shrek faster.
Fastest gamer in town.
Right? That is not it. 5G is absolutely for surveillance, and it is a bioweapon.
Yeah.
And this is just a small piece of field shield, and
Okay.
the field shield will catch the 5G. It will
Amazing.
catch the RF and the 5G, etc. This is just a little demonstration piece, but you put it behind your bed. Come on in. Awesome. Right.
Hello, welcome back.
Hello. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, it's cool.
So this is a tri-field meter. Right now
Okay.
it's on electric. And as I move it towards the electricity, you can hear it.
Yeah.
Can you hear that? That's my mic. As I take it away, it calms. As I take it towards it, it gets really loud. It's pinging it. It's frying me. It's put on weighted.
Sorry.
I know. But
We'll reimburse you for your cellular damage. Wow.
goes to near zero. Right now it is literally on 0.
Okay.
So
Wow.
we built
So can
this
we
up
just
to
build
do
a
it.
house that has all of it in the walls and just be in a little safe house?
So the first thing you do is just be really mindful to turn things off, unplug some things, live without some things, or live intentionally. Always start there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then number 2, you can use plug-in or wire-in filters wired at the panel that are going to clean, filter, regulate all the power, remove the EMFs, switch over to our light bulbs. And again, while they are expensive at $5, these things don't put you in the poorhouse. You know what I mean? And then you need just a couple of pieces of field shield. Radiation does not turn corners. It can't bend around something. So if I've got this here, it can't come around back.
Okay.
I stop it to infinity this way. Isn't that interesting? That's why it doesn't have to be too huge. So somewhere on your wall is your smart meter. You put that on the interior wall of the opposite. So if your smart meter is right here on your house, go inside the house, and put it right there and you block it.
Amazing.
Then we like one behind the beds, because behind the bed, again, not to be repetitive, you're sticking your head right in the business. You're just sticking your head right in the noise within a couple feet. So you're still inside that big field zone, the danger zone. You put your head inside the danger zone, and you're not going to ideally move it for 8 hours. And who sleeps anymore? Nobody sleeps. It's like, yeah, I was in bed. Was I really rested? Do I really feel rejuvenated? When we go camping, you're camping outside, so it's either too hot or too cold. Don't lie. There's always a pine cone right under your lower back, and you don't know how you missed it. And there it is. And the birds are noisy, and it's kind of spooky because I live in Western Montana, and everything that can eat you is there.
Yeah.
And somehow with all that, you wake up 5 or 6 hours later, the most rested that you felt in months. And I really believe for my own person that it's just getting out of all this electric noise, getting out of all this e-pollution, the 4G, 5G, LTE, smart meter, dish network, direct TV, you name it, you guys, they're just flooding us.
Yeah.
I just got a notification from my weather app that said smoky skies from Canada's fire, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's because y'all were spraying all day yesterday. You were like, oh, they're having too nice of a day, we're gonna screw this up for them and just inundate their body with heavy
start
metals.
the fires because they want to say climate change comes from all these dry trees, and that's climate change, and they go out and they start the fire and then spend hundreds of millions of dollars putting it out. No, it's so sad because I was taught as a little boy.
How are the skies like in Montana, real quick?
Oh, big sky country, until the jets come, beautiful and blue and clear until it starts. And then they shoot across. Sometimes they do hexagrams over us and sick stuff. Yeah. We've got pictures a lot, like, me and my friends will go out and, I'm not a super early bird, but 7:30 or something, be outside and it's just gorgeous. And then an hour later, my buddy will text me, he'll say, walk outside, and it's just covered. They just white it out. So I'm water, right? We're biology, but we're mostly water. Well, that's aluminum. So you're breathing all this aluminum. It's landing on our food. It's landing on our cars. Sometimes my car has so much white aluminum on it, I can actually scrape it and get some like snow. And then a couple of times we put it in the microwave to watch it spark. It's metal. It's white metal on my car. Okay. So you're breathing this and you're eating this. Now what are you? Now you're water and metal. Now you're an antenna. So now 4G and 5G and all that can really affect you. And they've released the patents. I mean, Snowden and all the guys, they've released the patents. I saw it on a little cat. There's a little cat in a cage, and he had a little thing in his head, poor little guy. And the guy had a rear little rheostat dial, right? And he goes, watch this. And he goes this way, and meow, cat's nice. And he licks his hand and gives his buddy a couple nice licks, right? And he's fine. And he winds it up, and the cat starts to get irritable. Ears back, the cat changes, turns it up, and the cat just starts striking his buddy in the face. How they can affect it. Well, they can do that to us. And when I was reading the patent stuff, and patents are so hard to read because it's just pages of hard stuff to read. They can make you definitely more docile, definitely more anxious, irritable, angry, and sexually aroused. Why do they want to make us horny? Leave us alone. Leave us alone, right? And so, since we've gone down this trail, our products help with that completely as well. So when you sleep, you're going to get better sleep. I believe it as I say it, because you're less affected by all these waves and what they're trying to do.
That concludes part one. That concludes part one. Next week, we will be posting part 2.
Oh my gosh.
You are going to love the second half of this conversation just as much as you loved this one.
Yeah, it's so good. You're going to love it. We can't wait for you guys to hear it.
Thanks for being with us today. Follow us on Instagram at @underthesun_podcast. We'd love to meet you.
Please help us out by subscribing on YouTube and leaving a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next time. Please remember this information is made available to you for informational and educational purposes only. It is in no way a substitute for medical advice.